You know the video gonna be real when I'm sweating already and the video just started. So I'm just getting that out the way, man. I hope y'all having a good day. It's Terry Warfield. What you think I'm filming on right now, man? Why don't you take a wild guess? What you think I'm filming on? The RX100 Mark 7. So a few things before we actually get into this video. I want to send a special shout out to my folks over at BHPhoto, man. I really appreciate y'all hooking me up with this camera to test out. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have been able to afford this thing if they didn't, but that's just a testament to how dope BHPhoto is, man. One of the only camera companies out there that actually works with and looks out for creators. So I've been using this camera for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I feel confident enough to share some of my opinions about it so far. So this ain't gonna be like a full in-depth review of the RX100 Mark 7. I'm not going over specs and all of that stuff. I did that in the first video. I just want to share what I think about this dope little $1,200 expensive camera so far. You know, I'm out here in these mean streets. I mean, actually, I'm kind of at the park. I mean, it's real nice too. It's kids, you know, playing around on the playground and everything. But I'm not in the streets. All right, I'm at the park. But let's get out here. Let's talk about this camera some. It's a beautiful day, and I'm out here vlogging with the RX100 Mark 7. So that takes me to one of my favorite things just right off the bat on how perfect this camera is as a vlog setup. Right now, all I got is the RX100 Mark 7 mounted on the Joby GorillaPod. I'm filming in 4K. I do have the active steady shot or whatever it's called. I have it turned on, right? So you can see how good it's doing or if it's doing good at all. I'm not trying to like walk different or do the ninja walk or anything like that, but I think this camera is perfect for vlogging. It's tiny, and that's the next thing. I'm gonna talk about that in a second, but it's tiny. It has a flippy screen, which, you know, I didn't really understand the big deal behind flippy screens. You know, I use an A7 III and an A6300, and everybody always talk about, oh man, I need a flippy screen, I need a flippy screen. And I always say, you know, I don't need it because I could trust the A7 III and this autofocus system. But I gotta be honest, being able to look up here and just make sure that my composition is straight and my lighting, and this is tracking my face and my eye, even with sunglasses on. And that's the next thing that makes this the perfect vlogging camera, is those face tracking features, man. Even if it loses track of my eye, it'll default to my face. Now, once it picks back up on my eye, boom, it's right back in focus. Flippy screen, face tracking, eye autofocus. Lastly, you got a microphone input. Right now, I have the Deity V-Lav, which is literally a $50 lav mic that can adapt to any audio source that you plug it into. You know, you just plug the V-Lav in. Oh man, I got decent audio now, don't I? There's no hot shoe or cold shoe to put a microphone on. So I think in this case, like a V-Lav or some type of, you know, attachment to mount a microphone will probably be your best bet. But that's my first favorite thing about the RX100 Mark 7. It's the perfect vlogging camera. I got 4K, it's stabilized, I got a flippy screen and a microphone. I'm winning out here. Man, these birds is out here going nuts. They must see a player walking through the park. They say, all these birds out here like, man, this big swole dude is walking through the park and we need to tell all our homeboys. So if you hear the birds going off in the background, it's because I'm here. But my next favorite thing about the RX100 Mark 7 is literally the size, man. I know, like, y'all knew this already, but this is my first hands-on with an RX camera, and I'm blown away by the size, man. Being able to just pick this thing up and go without having to worry about packing the gimbal and all that other stuff, because, you know, it got built-in stabilization, even though it's not the greatest, I'm just gonna be honest. And know that you got great 4K, you got 120p slow-mo, you got S-Log, you got, you know, HLG formats, you got cine profiles, plus you got a stills camera. And this lens, which I'm gonna talk about in a second, that to me is very, very attractive, man. Going into this, my expectations, I think, were a little too high. You know what I'm saying? I'm expecting this thing to give me like A7 III quality because, you know, it's $1,200. Even though I'm not saying that the A7 III has the best quality, but you get what I'm saying, man. This thing is 1,200 buckaroos. And even though I know it's a small camera with a small sensor, it's $1,200, and I'm still expecting it to be some fire coming out of this camera. I'm not going out expecting to film like this major production or anything like that. I just know that I got a great camera that offers me a ton of features, the latest, the fastest autofocus technology stolen from the A9 in a package this small. Now I gotta be fair, I don't like the ergonomics. This is not so easy because it's just a small flat rectangle, and it makes me feel uneasy that this thing is $1,200 and I can never get a good grip on it. Man, I'm sweating out here. I don't feel comfortable just walking around with this thing because it's $1,200. I gotta throw that in there again without it being mounted on some type of little monopod or gorilla pod. But still, overall, the form factor on this thing, again, because this is my first RX camera, I'm pretty impressed with it. Now, the next thing I wanna cover real quick, the zoom lens. Now, I gotta be honest, man, I'm not really happy with this lens. And I know everybody says it's Zeiss and blah, blah, blah. Listen, I appreciate the fact that it's wider on one end and super telephoto on the other end. And it's f2.8 to f4.5. I just don't like how as soon as you zoom in and you're like at 35 millimeter, like it's already at an f4. That to me sucks. I'm just gonna be honest. Now, again, I gotta take it back. I gotta say, I understand it's a small sensor. Compromises did have to be made. I would much rather have the zoom lens that was on the RX100 Mark V. I'm gonna leave it there. All right, over there you can see some ducks, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna zoom in and we're gonna try to nail a picture of one of these geese flying away, because you know, this thing can shoot 20 frames per second blackout free, and I'm gonna zoom in probably as close as I can zoom in. So let's do it. Okay, so that didn't go too well, man. I tried like 4 or 5 bursts, zoomed all the way in, continuous autofocus, and burst mid, because you know you can't use burst high unless you switch to E-shutter. And I ain't really get too much of nothing, man. And for some reason, like at the super telephoto end, you know, I was able to freeze motion, but the pictures just don't look good, man. I mean, my exposure is good, you know, I just can't squeeze anything good out of the telephoto end of this camera. And I know it's all about compromise, right? I can't, like, it's not a big, huge, you know, $10,000 zoom lens. I get all of that, but it's $1,200. So even though my burst test failed, I find the picture quality out of this thing, you know, it's okay. I haven't been blown away, honestly, you know, by any pictures that I've taken with this camera. Now, to be fair, like, this is where I think the 6400 might be the better option, or maybe the 6100 that just got announced. I can adapt the lens to that and get the specific look I'm going for. On this camera, the only way I can get any type of depth of field is to zoom in to like 100 millimeters. And it's a tiny sensor, and it's just very difficult to get any type of realistic, usable depth of field. So, you know, for pictures, I guess in a pinch, yeah, it does good, but also modern cell phones are bridging that gap with software, and this doesn't have any of that fancy software for pictures. So, you know, like I said, pictures are, you know, it'll get the job done. I would absolutely grab my 6300 with a little nifty 50 on it, and I can get way better pictures than I can get out of this thing. Now, the video quality you can pump out of this thing, I mean, you already see the vlog footage, the 4K, just like every other Sony camera, it's just freaking ridiculous. And the slow-mo, you know, you get your standard frame rates that Sony's typically offer. You know, the 120 FPS, the 60 frames per second, 4K 24, 4K 30, and the likes. But you also have high frame rate on this camera where you can get it up to 960 FPS. Now, granted, it's got its, you know, it's got its caveats, but it's still there. It's very difficult for video to get depth of field too, unless I want to zoom in to 100 millimeters or more. Now, I get it. Terry, it's a small camera. You knew that already. Yes, I know that already. And I get it. It's not built for that. If I want to do that, Terry, just pick up one of your other cameras. I get that. But again, this thing is $1,200 freaking dollars. The stabilization in this camera isn't the best, but if you drop it down to 1080p and you go 60 frames a second or less, then you can go with the intelligent active steady shot, which takes the steadiness a bit further. But I don't have a gimbal or anything like that. I do recommend, if this is your primary camera and you're gonna be using it for your B-roll and stuff like that, it is worth investing in an inexpensive little gimbal, just so you can get some super smooth shots if this is gonna be your main camera. Now, I do think that this is a badass little camera. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's a lot of features and stuff packed into this camera. There's a lot of things I really like. Like I said, I like the form factor. I like the fact that it's great 4K. I love the autofocus and how the autofocus is literally ridiculously quick. I love that it has a microphone input jack. Some stuff I'll give it forgiveness for, right? The battery life, I get it. It's a small camera, small battery. It's gonna suck. I don't like how this camera does not have USB-C. To me, that's a complete oversight from Sony. Like, come on, man, $1,200. There's no way they should still be putting micro USB into this camera. If I'm paying $1,200, I shouldn't have that type of compromise. How hard would it have been to solder a different type of connector to the motherboard and stick it in the same freaking place? You got a microphone jack in this thing that you couldn't fit. There's already space for it. Why not just switch it to USB-C? To me, that's like a slap in the face. The A7 III, which is a year older, has USB-C. So I just don't understand that choice. But all in all, I think this is a fantastic little camera. Now, unfortunately, I don't get to keep this thing. I wish I did. Even with the things I don't like about it, I still think it's a killer camera. Do I think it's worth $1,200? I do. I think it's worth every bit of $1,200. Would I pay $1,200 for it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would absolutely grab me a Sony a6100 and grab me some lenses. That way I can get a variety of shots. And a camera that's a few $100 cheaper has all of this same technology, well, just about all of it, at a much lower price point. Now again, if you got the money and you just want a solid vlog camera as your B camera or your C camera, yeah, but if this is going to be your main camera, absolutely not. I would absolutely steer you towards getting a interchangeable lens camera so that you can grow with the camera. See, the thing with the RX100 is once you've outgrown it, you've outgrown it. You didn't have to consider buying another camera or something else, whereas an interchangeable lens camera, lenses are really the main piece that makes your video look the way it looks, is the lenses. I mean, it's got a lot to do with other stuff too, but a huge piece of that is the lens. And on the RX100, you cannot swap the lens. And I wouldn't be saying that if this thing did not cost $1,200. I had a lot of stuff to say, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, special thanks to my folks over at BHPhoto. I really appreciate y'all, man. And y'all already know, peace and chicken grease, Terry Warfield. That's all I got for you. Peace.